Testing. We're going to get the ball rolling here in a few minutes and start up, like I said, in the comments. So thank you guys to those that have just came in. Hey everybody, welcome to a late night IP live. I didn't plan on going live tonight, but I think that this conflict deserves a little bit more attention than I have been giving it. So thank you to those that have been coming in. I apologize if my voice sounds a little bit funny tonight. I promise I'm not sick. So yeah, welcome to new people coming in. I do appreciate the comments. Welcome, Andres, and the Americas as well. So yeah, Andres, I hope you can eat some more food. And before we start, I do want to, give a shout out to everyone in Florida, to those that have really went through some tough times these past few days. I hope that you all are able to find the necessary aid and help that you've been able to get, and I hope that you all were able to find somewhere safe. So yeah, prayers are out to you guys. But yeah, welcome new people, new subscribers. So yeah, someone had left a comment in here earlier about learning about indigenous people and native people of the Americas. This channel, as I had stated a little bit of time ago, that this is more of a multi-dimensional channel in terms of just being more diverse in how I go about news and covering certain events around the world. I think it's very important to cover these different types of issues because they all affect us in one way or another. And this current problem going on in Ukraine very much has a very big impact on how we live our lives, which I'll go into a little bit more detail about. I'm just going to pull up the first image here, which what I'm going to be talking about today is the conflict in, as I said, Ukraine. For those of you that don't follow the news too much, 4 regions of Ukraine are currently under Russian control. And they're mostly on the eastern part of the country. So what does this mean for us living here in the U.S.? Obviously, our government will be sending more aid and more help Um, I'm not sure as far as like the severity of the issue, how much worse it will get from here. But obviously, what happened was an amount of Russian soldiers had managed to occupy many of these regions in Ukraine, as you can see, and they held these fake referendums, um, as many people are calling them. And what they did was they casted votes as quickly as they could. The Russians in charge of these areas, and some people were forced to vote. So obviously, a lot of this voting, many of it is much of it is inaccurate, um, and the issue stemming from that is that now all these regions are claimed under Russian territory, right? So the president, Vladimir Putin, had recently just said that any attack on their territory is an attack on Russia, and they will respond um, militarily, right? In any way they see fit to protect their land. Obviously, this is a very large provocation that has happened at a much larger scale than previously, and I do fear that it will get worse from here. I don't see the president backing down or giving up on this, obviously. So, someone said that wonder if they'll start drafting people. I'm not sure, Gio, if you're referring to Russia or the U.S., because they've already pretty much started a draft in Russia. I can kind of explain this shortly. Is that if anyone saw the community post that I made, Russia mobilized 300,000 troops to go to this eastern part of Ukraine, right? Because the war currently was not going in Russia's favor. So where are they going to find, these 300,000 soldiers? All you have to do is just look up, YouTube videos on what's going on right now, and many Russian people, from age 20 something to I think 50s, are being sent to this war, right? They're essentially being sent to a slaughterhouse, in my opinion. And it's very terrible because right now there's currently a mass exodus of thousands of Russian men and families going into the countries of Mongolia, surrounding border countries, Mongolia, Georgia, Turkey, I believe Finland, but they just closed their borders. I think the Russian tourists, I don't know about Russians that are fleeing the country, right? So it's a very unfortunate situation for them as well. I know, I have Ukrainian friends and Georgian friends and friends that are Russian as well. Giving nuclear information. .304s. Maybe if you could elaborate on the 304s. But yeah, guys. So I think what I really wanted to do was just have give a better understanding of the situation and how we got here, right? Because I feel that most Americans, all we know is that there's a current conflict, right? And I really like to go into detail because I'm the type of person that likes to understand why certain things are going on. And I like to look in the past and see how this all started. So essentially, this all started, during the Cold War, or essentially after World War II as well, when the Northern Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO, had started, and many of these countries, such as France, Spain, the UK, United States, formed an alliance, right? And essentially, the plan was that if any of these countries are attacked, then they all respond with military force. So it was a giant organization of many countries. As time went further on and the Cold War started, and obviously you had the Soviet Union and the breakup of the Soviet Union, more of these countries broke free, and more countries like Poland, Czechoslovakia, Hungary, I think Romania is also became a part of NATO, right? And we have to remember that Russia and the West do not get along with each other too much due to, oh, okay, so 304s do not get along due to political problems and past historic issues, due to military problems, and obviously both countries, both the West and Russia have completely different political ideologies, which can't seem to coexist. Obviously, there's issues with Russia that I don't agree with in terms of how the people are treated there, and I could go on and on, but I won't elaborate too much. So, essentially, during this time, let's fast forward to 2008, right? Russia had made this very strange claim that there are a lot of Russians living in certain parts of Georgia. So they kind of used that as the reason to invade and occupy these particular regions, saying that because there's ethnic Russians here, and a lot of them, it's their territory, right? So that kind of shows me just how certain the oligarchs and the military leaders in Russia very much have a colonial mindset, and it's quite sad, really, because I have many friends in Russia, in Georgia, and they tell me about the problems that went on and their animosity towards the Russian government. So this escalated more where, let me find the other picture here. I wanted to focus on Ukraine, right? Eventually Crimea, which is the bottom, number 9 here, that was also annexed and taken by Russia too. Now the reasons as far as why this happened is because there was there's tons of oil reserves all surrounded, and gas as well around Crimea. So Russia took this part of Ukraine, I believe in 2014, and I guess people thought that Russia would be done with their occupation and annexing of parts of sovereign nations, right? But they didn't. And here's a problem, obviously, that is going on in 2022. Ukraine was invaded by many areas of the country, from the west, more so actually from the north and the eastern parts. And for many people that don't know, there's a lot of, I think it's oil reserves. There are many that are on the eastern part of the country, specifically the regions that are currently occupied by Russia, right? And if we look here in Crimea, there's there's a lot of fresh water that are in the northern part of Ukraine right here. When Crimea was occupied, Ukraine obviously, they cut off the fresh water, right? So Russia had to go down from the western part of their country, from the mainland, and deliver fresh water through this, where the red line is right here going into Russia. It was more costly, cost more money. So now here they are, trying to take these regions of Ukraine where once they have the northern part of Crimea, then there'll be more fresh water, they'll go into the region. So it's an unfortunate situation that's going on. But, how does this play a part in, the Americans' lives, right? So if we look here, we see the prices of crude oil going up, prices of natural gas going up. We see it in, gas today, right? It's becoming more expensive. And not just gas and oil, but also corn, wheat, because we have to remember that Russia produces a lot of well, at least our country, but a lot of the world's wheat, right? Because it's a ginormous country. It's the biggest country in the world, so they're able to grow plenty of food. And then metals, I believe, as well. So yeah, they have a lot of resources. When the war started, as I said, bread, gas went up. So unfortunately, I think that this, as I said before, it looks like things are not going to get easier from here. It's going to become more of should I say, put this lightly, it's going to get more complicated, more difficult for everyone. Now, moving on to here, which was the community post that I made, right? I was very curious on people's thoughts on, what your thoughts were on the war. Of, if people decided the war needs to end now, of course, or if the U.S. should continue sending aid to Ukraine. It was only 11%. This is out of 95 people that took this, right? So in some ways, I was very surprised by this. Well, not too surprised, but a little bit, because I thought the percentage would be higher. And I think I try to explain this the best way I can, because I think many Americans, see ourselves as a big beacon of hope and freedom and democracy. Of course, many people in the government think this way too, to an extent, but they want to help Ukraine. And in my opinion, I think the amount of money that's been sent to Ukraine has been quite a lot, and it's very telling when you see that there's many poor parts of the U.S. right now that are suffering that could also get help as well, right? But I also recognize the conflict in Ukraine, and I do feel for the Ukrainian people that are there right now, for the people that have been killed by the Russian occupation, and so on, right? So I have sympathy for them too. And then many people say we should just stay out of the war in general, which I totally understand. Why should we have to have, our men and women suffer from the possibility of going into Ukraine, right? That would just be a giant mess that no one wants. And then obviously the fourth one is just if people are scared. So yeah, that's the current problem right now in the world. Obviously, I think I talked about China a little bit last time, but I really wanted to make this live so much short. I didn't plan on making a live this week. I just wanted to for you guys. So if anyone had any questions, I am more than happy to talk about it. I'm happy to address any questions right now, but I'll only be on here for a couple of minutes. And I do have, I'm working on a video right now for next week. So yeah, just what I wanted to say. Give like maybe 1 minute. But yeah, again, to our friends, in Florida, I really do hope, the best for you. I hope you're all able to stay vigilant during this difficult time. Someone asked if I ever eat waffles. Okay, I think that means it's the end of questions. But yes, I do. Okay, I have had them. So yeah, guys, I wanted to thank you guys for coming in. Again, this is a really short live, and it was actually quite unplanned, but it's just something that I wanted to share with you all. So if anyone has any other questions, feel free to leave comments in the after the video is over, in the comment section. Please like the video if you found it interesting. But yeah, hope you all are doing well, and I'll see you guys next time.